What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on First Take, they're going to be talking about Bryce Harper and how he had a slow start for opening day. So let's see what they have to say.
Today, what did you think about Bryce Harper hearing a few boos? We don't know how many, but there was some boos in Philly.
I loved it. And please don't get me wrong. I'm very fond of Bryce Harper. I like him a lot. I certainly never liked him as much as I love me some Mike Trout, who's the best in the game. But I like Bryce Harper. His MVP season, obviously, he was spectacular. Wrong. You get this $300 million contract, 13 years, $330 million to be exact, from the Philadelphia Phillies, staying within the National League East, staying within the division. Here's the reality of the situation. As somebody that wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer for 17 years, was living in that city. It's a second city. It's like a second home to me. Let me be very, very clear about what I'm about to say. Here's why I loved the boos. We appreciate the fact that you came. I'm speaking for Philadelphians here. We appreciate the fact that you came here. But don't think for 1 second we're thankful to have you because of what you did. We expect you to continue, if not improve upon what you did. You're young enough. You're supposed to be a stud, and we don't want you to get comfortable at all. We don't want you thinking that we're so grateful that no matter what you do, if you stick up the joint, it's going to be cool. It's not cool with us. Yeah, this is a city of brotherly love when you deserve it, but when you don't deserve it, we're going to let you hear it. That's Philadelphia. Even though I'm a native New Yorker, again, writing in Philadelphia for 17 years and being one of those guys that's chronicling the pulse of the people. I'm telling you how they are. They ain't playing that. They know that Bryce Harper.
So I don't mean to cut off Stephen A., but it is kind of funny that, you just get paid $330 million for 13 years, and your first game, you go 0 for 3. I mean, it's just kind of fun. I don't think this is anything to worry about with Bryce Harper because he's a baller. Everybody knows he's a baller. It's just funny that just the super thick irony that must have been floating around in that stadium. It's like you give this guy a new contract, all this money, and he goes 0 for 3. I don't know. It's just kind of funny. But let's keep going.
Can ball, but that doesn't mean you don't have to ball. So they just sending a message to him. Excuse me. Come here to get the job done to justify the money that you're getting.
Hey,
this ain't the nation's capital when it comes to baseball. Don't get comfortable until you produce.
Couple things. A 7.5 WAR player is a hell of a player. I mean, even if you rank 125th in baseball,
compared to what it was.
No, I get it, but there are 30 teams, so that puts you a top 4 or 5 player on any team. That's one of the better players on any team. Although I understand, given the size of his contract, people expect a lot.
Correct.
And Philadelphia, I find hilarious that they boo Santa Claus. That if you read Eli Manning's quote about a 9-year-old flipping him off, double flipping him off, and say he's like, it's just a different kind of place. That's Philadelphia's reputation, like the most miserable place on earth for sports fans. Even as they're winning Super Bowls and everything, they're still miserable. It's hilarious, or angry at least. It's hilarious to me. And as a New Yorker, we get some of that stuff too here from some New York fans. But I'll tell you what perplexes me. I never understood it as a Yankees fan. Let's say the Yankees would get some high ticket free agent, some big ticket guy, and he would mess up early. And I would hear someone booing. I think, yo, you want this dude performing or not? Baseball.
No, Max. It doesn't work that way. You get paid hundreds of millions of dollars for a long-term contract, and your first game, you stink up the joint. No. You're going to hear about it, okay? You're going to hear about it because the first impression means everything. So let's say Bryce Harper gets everything he got, the $13 million the 13-year contract, $330 million, and he goes out there and he hits 3 dongs. That's the best way to start. People are going to be going crazy. They're like, you're worth all the money. We're so glad you're here. We're glad you're well worth the money. Now, on the other hand, parallel to that, if this guy goes down and goes 0 for 3, has a terrible game, what do you think they're going to say? Oh, it's okay. It's the first game. No, we paid you all this money. We gave you a long-term contract, and you come out here in the first impression, the first game, and you stink up the joint? Nah. That's not okay. That's not okay in Philadelphia or anywhere. That's not cool. That's not cool. So that's not good, Max. Let's keep going.
The sample sizes are huge. I've seen guys, you can go 6 weeks and the guy doesn't get a base hit, it looks like, if you watch casually, right? Because baseball, a lot of times you have on like wallpaper. Your favorite player might be in a slump. You're like, yo, it's been like a month since I've seen this guy do something.
We're not paying you 13 years for $330 million to start out in a slump. We're not paying you for that. I didn't pay to come to this game to see our newest best player to start out in a slump. Okay? $330 million means you don't get to start out in a slump. Okay? If you're making $1 million a year, maybe you can start, whatever. Not even then. If I pay you any type of money, you don't start out in a slump. Let's keep going.
And yet by the end of the year, he can have all-star numbers. Bryce Harper to start booing him because especially in this day and age where it's all three true outcomes, home run, strikeout, walk.
That was what I was concerned about when I saw it. I think they were too bright, but in reality, the brightness was just in the shoes and not in his performance those first 3 times up at the plate. He's going to strike out. It's going to happen. The Philly fans are going to boo. I expect that. My dad played with the Phillies in 1983. They made the World Series that year. You guys know that against the Orioles, they lost. But I remember that was the first year I was in a big league uniform. I was the ball boy. And I dropped one of the balls before giving it to the umpire. I got booed, and I was 13 years old. I'm telling you, this is what the city of Brooklyn.
That's right. Those people in Philadelphia, they don't play. You're the ball boy, and you drop the ball, it doesn't matter. You're going to get booed, 13 years old or not. And you might get tore up in the parking lot, too. It doesn't matter. I'm just kidding. They're not going to be up a 13-year-old. But you understand what I'm saying, though, about how they're feeling in Philadelphia? Good. Let's keep going.
You a better ball boy?
Yeah, get your job done. Get it done. 1983, the Whiz Kids. I was there. Morgan, Rose, Perez, and Minnie Perez. That was me. I dropped the ball. Yesterday, the good thing for the Phillies is they won. The best thing was that he got intentionally walked. And when he got intentionally walked, Rhys Hoskins came up big, and Bryce Harper prepared him for that moment in spring training when he said to him, get ready, this is what they're going to do, and you have to show up. He did. Bryce Harper will show up. He will have a monster season, but I expected the boos right from the get-go, especially if he didn't produce in the first 2 at-bats.
Thank you for saying that, Eduardo. And here's the deal, Max and Eduardo, let me be very, very clear, all right? I've often said the luckiest part of my career was covering Allen Iverson. I left out a caveat there, covering Allen Iverson in Philly. Philadelphia is rough and tumble, man. You soft, you don't belong in that city. You ain't blue collar, you don't belong in that city. You don't have a pulse inside of you. I'm talking about being a self-starter. I'm not talking about being obligated to punch a clock. I'm not talking about being obligated to just get the job done or getting the job done and be satisfied with that. I'm talking about a motor inside of you where you're a self-starter. You're pushing yourself. You're demanding of yourself. And the status quo or just getting the job done well enough ain't enough for you. This city is hardcore. It's one of the great sports towns in America. I know about the booing of Santa Claus and all of this other stuff. I'm telling you right now, it was an honor and a privilege for me to work there for 17 years. It's one of the greatest sports towns in the history of this country. They bring it. And as a result, you have to bring it. And you know this, Eduardo. You just educate me about this. Playing in the nation's capital. It's one thing when we talk about politics, but when you talk about baseball in the nation's capital, is it fair for me, because I don't know, but I surmise, is it fair for me to say that it's a little bit different? Because whatever they are, because they're that way about their Redskins, but the national in Philadelphia.